My wife's brutal affair. My revenge wasn't just divorce. It was total annihilation of her career, social life, and every lie. You won't believe how. Okay, Reddit, I never thought I'd be posting here, especially not about this. My life just got ripped apart, and I don't even know where to begin. Maybe from the beginning, I guess. My wife, let's call her Serena, and I have been together for 12 years, married for 8. We had what I genuinely believed was a solid, loving marriage. 2 kids, a nice house, stable careers, the whole suburban dream, you know? We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but we always worked through them. Or so I thought. Looking back now, the signs were probably there, subtle at first, insidious even. I just chose to ignore them or rationalize them away because I loved her and I trusted her completely. She started working late more often, project deadlines, she'd say, with that slightly too bright smile. Her phone became practically an extension of her hand, always face down, always muted. If I ever accidentally picked it up, even just to move it, she'd snatch it back like it was a live grenade. Privacy, OP, she'd snap, don't you trust me? And I'd always say yes, because I did. Or at least, I desperately wanted to. Then there was the appearance thing. Not that she didn't always care about how she looked, but it ramped up. New clothes, expensive lingerie showing up. Not always for me, it turned out. More time at the gym, new haircut every other month. I'd compliment her, tell her she looked amazing, and she'd just shrug it off, say it was for herself. Which, fair enough, everyone wants to feel good. But it started to feel disconnected, like she was preparing for something, someone else. My gut started twisting, a slow, cold dread building in my stomach. I'd ask her what was going on, genuinely concerned, and she'd brush me off, call me paranoid, say I was being insecure. She had this way of making me feel like I was the problem. That's Serena for you. Always deflecting, always twisting things back on me. This whole period was like walking on eggshells in my own home, trying to ignore the alarm bells ringing in my head, just trying to hold on to the life I thought we had. My paranoia, as Serena liked to call it, turned out to be a very real, very ugly truth. The actual discovery hit me like a physical blow. It was a Tuesday evening, a night like any other. The kids were finally asleep, and I was just winding down, thinking about doing some laundry. Serena was in the shower, singing off-key as usual, a sound that used to comfort me. Now it just grates. Her phone, which she literally never let out of her sight, was on the kitchen counter, screen face up for once. Probably forgot it in her rush, or just got sloppy. As I walked past, it buzzed. A text message. My eyes, almost involuntarily, snagged on the preview. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby. Missed your touch. My blood ran cold. Asterisk, baby? Asterisk, that wasn't how her work colleagues texted. My heart started hammering so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. Every alarm bell, every gut feeling I'd ignored, every subtle shift in her behavior coalesced into a single, terrifying truth. My hands were shaking as I picked up the phone. It wasn't locked. Another slip-up. The message was from a contact simply named Alex. I scrolled up, and up, and up. It wasn't just a flirty text. It was a full-blown, explicit conversation spanning months. Pictures, videos, details of hotel rooms, late nights at the office that were actually passionate rendezvous. My wife, the woman I loved, the mother of my children, was not just cheating. She was having a brutal, no-holds-barred affair. It was disgusting, graphic, and utterly soul-destroying. Every single excuse, every lie she'd ever fed me about work, about being tired, about needing space, played back in my head, each one a fresh stab to my chest. I felt like I was going to throw up. My whole world, the foundation of my life, just crumbled into dust right there in my kitchen. Hey, if you're finding this story gripping, do me a solid and subscribe to the channel and like the YouTube video. It really helps me out. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at that phone, feeling the absolute deepest pit of despair open up inside me. It felt like an eternity, but it was probably only a few minutes before the shower stopped. Panic mixed with a seething rage started to boil. She was coming out, she was going to see me, and I had her phone, holding the evidence of her disgusting betrayal. When she walked into the kitchen, wrapped in a towel, her hair still wet, she had that casual, easy smile she always wore after a shower. Hey, babe, everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost, she said, her voice light. I couldn't speak. I just held up her phone, the screen still open to the explicit chat with Alex. Her smile evaporated. Her eyes widened, a flicker of pure terror crossing her face before it was replaced by something cold and calculating. What? What is that? Why are you looking at my phone? She demanded, suddenly defensive. Don't you dare. I managed, my voice a raw whisper. Don't you dare try to flip this on me. I shoved the phone towards her. Alex? Missed your touch, baby? What the hell is this, Serena? She snatched the phone, her face going beet red, but not with shame, with anger. It's nothing. It's just a colleague. We're messing around. It's harmless. She shrieked, her voice rising. Harmless? The pictures, the videos, the descriptions of their sessions? Harmless? Harmless. I roared, my voice finally finding its power, shaking the very walls. You call this harmless? You're screwing another man, Serena. You're sending him pictures, videos. You're lying to me, to our kids, for months. This isn't harmless. It's brutal, disgusting betrayal. She started crying then, but it wasn't the kind of crying that made me feel sympathy. It was performative, theatrical. Oh, Opie, I'm so sorry. It just happened. I was lonely. You're always so busy with work. I felt neglected. She sobbed, trying to clutch my arm. I recoiled as if she was covered in acid. Lonely? I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping me. Lonely? I work my ass off for this family. I come home every night to you. I ask you what's wrong. I try to talk to you. And you push me away. You call me paranoid. You tell me I'm the problem. You didn't feel lonely. Serena, you felt entitled to lie, to cheat, to betray everything we built. Her excuses were flimsy, transparent, and only fueled my rage. She kept trying to minimize it, to twist the narrative, to blame me for her actions. It was infuriating, absolutely soul-crushing. There was no remorse, just self-pity and attempts to escape accountability. The confrontation spiraled into a screaming match, one that probably woke the kids, though I couldn't bring myself to care at that moment. All I could see was red. All I could hear were her flimsy excuses, her blame shifting, her pathetic attempts to make me feel guilty for her choices. It was just a mistake, OP. I was confused. It meant nothing. She kept repeating, even as I pointed to the explicit details on her phone. Nothing. You sent him a picture of yourself in our bed, Serena, while I was at work. That's not nothing. That's calculated, brutal disrespect. I yelled, my voice cracking with pure anguish. She just stood there, her face tear-stained but stubbornly defiant, still refusing to take full responsibility. She started saying things like, well, if you had paid more attention. Or, you haven't been the same lately either. Trying to create a false equivalency, to dilute her actions by accusing me. It was textbook manipulation, and it just hardened my resolve. The emotional impact hit me like a tidal wave after she finally retreated to the guest room, probably to text Alex for comfort, for all I knew. The anger was overwhelming, a burning inferno in my chest. But underneath it, a profound, gut-wrenching sadness started to seep in. My wife, the woman I pledged my life to, the mother of my children, she had done this. She had shattered our vows, our trust, our entire future, with such casual cruelty. I wandered aimlessly through the house, the home we'd built together, now feeling like a tomb. Every photo on the wall, every memento of our life, felt like a sick joke. I sat on the couch, the very spot where we'd cuddled, watched movies, dreamed of our future, and felt utterly, completely empty. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was an emotional massacre. It was the obliteration of my perception of her, of us, of what love even meant. I felt foolish, naive, like the biggest idiot on the planet for not seeing it sooner, for trusting her blindly. The pain was physical, a crushing weight in my chest, a constant ache behind my eyes. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every late night, every business trip, every tired excuse, each one a fresh twist of the knife. I felt worthless, unloved, and utterly, brutally betrayed. The world had gone from vibrant color to bleak, desolate gray in a single night. The next few days were a blur of sleepless nights and agonizing days. Serena continued her manipulative charade, alternating between tearful apologies, which sounded hollow and rehearsed, and thinly veiled accusations that I was somehow responsible for her cheating. She'd say things like, "If you truly loved me, you'd understand," or "Everyone makes mistakes. Opie, why are you being so unforgiving?" It was infuriating. Her complete lack of genuine remorse, her inability to acknowledge the depth of the pain she'd inflicted without immediately deflecting blame, was a stark revelation. It showed me a side of her I never wanted to believe existed. I spent most of my time locked in my home office, just staring at the wall, trying to process the enormity of what had happened. I researched divorce lawyers, trying to mentally prepare myself for the inevitable legal battle. The thought of losing my kids, or having to split time with them, twisted my stomach into knots. But the thought of staying with Serena, of trying to work it out after such a brutal betrayal, felt like signing up for a lifetime of misery and distrust. How could I ever look at her again without seeing Alex? How could I ever believe a single word she said? One evening, after the kids were with my mom for the night, a blessing I desperately needed, I found myself staring at our wedding photo. We looked so young, so full of hope and love. A bitter laugh escaped me. All of that gone, destroyed by her selfish, cruel actions. The sadness was still there, a constant companion, but something else began to crystallize, a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't just going to let her walk away from this, not after she had systematically dismantled my life and our family with such casual disregard. I had loved her fiercely, and that love had been used as a weapon against me. But now, that love was dead, replaced by a steely determination. I knew I couldn't rebuild with her. The trust was obliterated, the respect gone. My decision became crystal clear. I was separating from her, and I was going to ensure that her actions had consequences. Consequences that she, in her self-absorbed world, probably never even considered. This wasn't about vengeance, not exactly. It was about justice, about reclaiming my dignity, and about ensuring my kids saw that betraying those you love comes with a price. I wasn't going to be the silent victim. Serena was about to learn that actions truly do speak louder than her pathetic excuses. My first step was pragmatic, but it felt incredibly empowering. I changed all the locks on the house, canceled her access to our joint bank accounts, not just hers, ours. I had already moved a significant portion of my savings into a separate account, something a lawyer friend had advised me to do immediately. When she came home from work that evening and couldn't get her key to work, the look on her face was priceless. Pure shock, followed by dawning realization, then that familiar, performative rage. "What the hell, OP? What have you done?" She shrieked through the closed door, banging on it. I opened it just enough to slide a single printed document through the gap. A temporary restraining order, and a notice that she was no longer welcome on the premises, along with a schedule for when she could pick up some essentials, supervised. "I'm protecting my kids, Serena, and myself. Your things will be packed and stored. Your access to our finances is terminated. This house is no longer your sanctuary for lies." Her face went from red to ashen. "You can't do this. This is our house. This is illegal," she yelled, her voice breaking. "It's all perfectly legal, Serena. I have lawyers now. You might want to get one," I said, my voice cold, devoid of emotion. I watched as her eyes darted around, probably calculating her next move, realizing she had truly screwed up, not just for a moment, but irreversibly. That night, I started digging deeper, fueled by an icy calm. Her phone records, her work schedule, everything she had used to build her elaborate web of lies. I found out the name of Alex. He was a senior partner at her firm, married with 3 kids. Of course, a total scumbag, just like her. This wasn't some random fling. It was a calculated affair with someone who held power over her in her professional life. The realization just cemented my resolve. She wasn't some poor, lonely victim. She was an opportunist. I spent hours compiling everything, meticulously. Screenshots, call logs, detailed notes of her comings and goings. I even found a shared calendar invite for business trips that matched up perfectly with the hotel reservations I managed to find using a forgotten email confirmation in an old browser history on the family computer. Each piece of evidence was a dagger, but also a shield. I was building an airtight case, not just for divorce, but for something far more significant. This was no longer just about me. It was about exposing the truth, about ensuring she couldn't continue her destructive patterns unchallenged. The acceptance of the situation was complete now, replaced by a strategic, brutal clarity. The next morning, armed with my meticulously compiled dossier, I executed the next phase of my plan. I woke up early, ensured the kids were settled with the nanny I'd hired for the day, because, honestly, I couldn't trust Serena to even be near them right now, and headed out. My first stop was Alex's wife. Yeah, you read that right. I knew it was brutal, but she deserved to know the truth, just as I had. I arrived at their house just as she was dropping her kids off at school. I approached her calmly, introduced myself, and handed her a sealed envelope. Her name was Sarah. She looked at me, confused, then at the envelope. "What's this about?" she asked, a slight frown on her face. "Your husband, Alex, is having an affair with my wife, Serena," I stated, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Everything you need to know, every single detail, is in that envelope. I have proof, incontrovertible proof. I thought you deserved to know." I watched her face drain of color, her eyes widening in shock and disbelief. She clutched the envelope like a lifeline, her knuckles white. I didn't wait for her response. I just turned and walked away. My conscience was clear. It wasn't my burden to carry alone anymore. My next stop was Serena's workplace. I had printed out some of the most damning texts and photos, enough to be truly undeniable, but carefully censored anything explicit involving children or deeply private matters to ensure I wasn't crossing any lines I couldn't uncross. I walked directly into the HR department and asked to speak to the head of HR. I explained the situation, provided them with my evidence, and detailed how Serena had been using company time and resources to facilitate her affair with a senior partner. I also mentioned the potential for a hostile work environment and an abuse of power dynamic, given Alex's position. The HR manager's face went from professional politeness to absolute horror as they looked through the documents. They assured me they would launch an immediate, confidential investigation. I knew what that meant. It meant careers would be ruined. Lives would be upended. But I also knew that Serena had done this to herself. She had made her bed, and now she would lie in it, alongside Alex, in a very public and professionally destructive way. The cold satisfaction I felt wasn't revenge, it was justice. It was the brutal truth finally being brought to light. If you're still with me on this wild ride, don't forget to subscribe and like the YouTube channel. Your support means a lot. The fallout was immediate and spectacular, a brutal cascade of consequences that Serena, in her self-absorbed world, clearly never anticipated. My phone started blowing up within hours of my HR visit. First, it was Serena, hysterical, screaming threats and accusations, swearing she'd ruin me. Then, it was Alex, calling from an unknown number, begging, pleading, offering me money to make this go away. I ignored them both. My resolve was iron. Then came the official calls. Sarah, Alex's wife, called me, her voice shaking with a mixture of devastation and gratitude. She had confronted Alex. He had admitted everything. She thanked me profusely, heartbreakingly, for having the courage to tell her. That call, in particular, solidified my belief that I had done the right thing. She deserved the truth, just as I did. The biggest bombshell dropped the next day. Alex was suspended from work, pending investigation. A day later, Serena was also placed on immediate administrative leave. I got a call from the HR manager, thanking me for bringing the matter to their attention and confirming that their internal investigation had corroborated my claims. They were taking decisive action. I later heard through the grapevine that both Alex and Serena were quietly resigning to avoid being fired for gross misconduct and workplace policy violations. Their high-flying careers, built on years of hard work, were now in tatters, all because of their reckless, selfish affair. Serena, now truly cornered and facing professional ruin, completely melted down. She showed up at my house, banging on the door, screaming through the doorbell camera that I had destroyed her life, that I was a monster. The irony was suffocating. I simply played back some of her more explicit texts and videos from Alex on a loop through the external speaker system, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. She quickly retreated, humiliated. Her sense of entitlement and victimhood was finally meeting the harsh reality of her actions. It wasn't about revenge for me anymore. It was about ensuring she could no longer hide behind her lies or inflict pain with impunity. She had sown the wind, and now she was reaping the whirlwind. This was the brutal justice she deserved. The process of officially separating and initiating divorce proceedings was grueling, but surprisingly, I felt a sense of clarity and purpose I hadn't experienced in months. Serena's initial bluster and threats quickly dissolved into desperate pleas and attempts to negotiate once she realized the full extent of the legal and professional hole she'd dug for herself. Her lawyers, probably sensing a lost cause, advised her to cooperate. I moved forward with a clear head, focusing on securing the best possible outcome for my children and for myself. The evidence I had collected was irrefutable. Her infidelity was not only proven, but had professional consequences that painted a very clear picture of her judgment and character. This significantly strengthened my position regarding asset division and, crucially, custody arrangements. I fought for, and eventually secured, primary custody of our children, with supervised visitation for Serena, given the stress and upheaval she had caused. It was a tough battle, but one I knew I had to win for my kids' stability and well-being. The financial settlement was also in my favor, though I didn't want to completely ruin her. She would have to rebuild, which was fair. The house, our home, remained mine, a sanctuary that was finally cleansed of her deceit. I felt a profound sense of relief as the final papers were signed. It wasn't happiness, not yet, but it was the quiet satisfaction of having navigated a brutal storm and emerged, battered but unbroken. The emotional impact, while still present, had shifted. The initial shock and rage had faded into a deep sadness for the marriage that was, and a sense of loss for the future I had imagined. But beneath that, a quiet strength had begun to grow. I wasn't the naive, trusting husband anymore. I was a man who had faced the brutal reality of betrayal and chosen to fight, not just for myself, but for the principle of truth and integrity. It was a painful, brutal education, but an education nonetheless. I realized that my self-worth wasn't tied to Serena's opinion or her fidelity. It was tied to my own strength, my own resilience, and my ability to protect my children. The journey was far from over, but the resolution had been reached. I had taken back control of my life. In the aftermath, life slowly, painfully, began to reassemble itself. The kids were, understandably, a priority. We started therapy together, me and them. Explaining the situation in an age-appropriate way was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. They missed their mom, of course, and that broke my heart all over again. But they also saw the shift in the household atmosphere, the tension gone, replaced by a quiet calm. They saw me, their dad, being present and strong, and I poured all my energy into them. Serena, for her part, tried to salvage what she could. She moved into a small apartment, started looking for a new job, though her professional reputation was severely damaged. Her supervised visits with the kids were awkward, often tense. She still tried to play the victim, making veiled comments about my vengeance, but I just met them with a blank stare. There was no point engaging. My focus was forward, on healing and rebuilding. The acceptance I felt wasn't about being okay with what she did. It was about accepting that it happened, and that I couldn't change it. What I could change was my reaction, my future. The anger had transformed into a cold indifference towards her, and a burning passion for a better life for my kids and myself. I started rediscovering hobbies I'd abandoned, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. I even started dating a little, tentatively, just to remind myself what genuine connection felt like. It was a long, slow process, full of ups and downs, but the trajectory was upward. The decision to take such brutal, swift action wasn't easy, but looking back, it was the only path that allowed me to maintain my dignity and protect my family. Working on the marriage was never an option after the depth of her deception and her complete lack of true remorse. Separation was inevitable, and the revenge, as she called it, was simply ensuring accountability. It was a painful education, but it taught me that sometimes the only way to move forward is to utterly destroy the lies that held you captive, no matter how brutal the process. It was about rebuilding on a foundation of truth, even if that truth was ugly. One afternoon, several months after the divorce was finalized, I was at the park with my kids. They were laughing, chasing each other, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a genuine sense of peace. My phone buzzed. It was an unknown number, but something told me to answer. It was Sarah, Alex's ex-wife. She sounded strong, resolute. "Hi, Opie," she said. "I just wanted to call and say thank you again. I know it was brutal, but you saved me. I divorced Alex. Got the house, got primary custody. He lost everything, too, just like Serena. He's struggling to find work. It's been hard, but I'm finally free." Her words resonated deeply. We talked for a while, sharing our similar journeys of devastation and rebuilding. There was no romantic undertone, just a shared understanding of what it felt like to have your world imploded by someone you loved, and then to painstakingly put it back together. It was a bizarre, unexpected connection, a testament to the strange ways life can bring people together, even through shared trauma. That conversation was a turning point for me in terms of emotional impact. It helped me move past the lingering anger and sadness and towards a broader understanding of the situation. It wasn't just my story of betrayal. It was a shared human experience of deceit and resilience. Hearing Sarah's recovery mirrored my own, cementing the feeling that I hadn't been overly vindictive, but simply sought justice for an egregious wrong. The emotional journey had finally reached a point of acceptance, not just of the past, but of the new reality. It wasn't forgiveness, not for Serena, but it was release. Release from the anger, from the bitterness, from the constant replaying of events. I realized I couldn't live in that space forever. My children deserved a happy, present father, and I deserved a life free from the shadow of Serena's betrayal. The decision to confront her, to expose her, to ultimately sever ties and ensure consequences had been painful, but it had also been profoundly liberating. It taught me that sometimes the only way to truly heal is to face the ugliness head-on, no matter how brutal the fight. And sometimes, by fighting for yourself, you inadvertently help someone else find their own path to freedom. A year later, the scars were still there, but they had faded from raw wounds to faint lines, reminders of a battle fought and won. I was fully settled into my new normal. The kids were thriving, adjusted, and we had a routine that felt safe and loving. Serena was still in contact, seeing the kids on her supervised schedule, but her presence in my life was minimal, a distant echo of the past. Her attempts at manipulation had long since ceased to affect me. Her power was gone. My career had even taken off, partly because I poured myself into it, partly because the clarity I gained from the whole ordeal made me more focused. I even met someone new, a kind, genuine woman who was nothing like Serena. We took things incredibly slow, building a relationship on honesty and trust, something I now valued above all else. It was a refreshing, healing experience, a testament to the fact that love and happiness were still possible after such a devastating blow. The resolution had been achieved. Not a storybook ending, but a real, gritty, earned peace. I looked back at the initial turmoil, the gut-wrenching discovery, the brutal confrontation, and the ensuing chaos, and I saw a different person. The naive man who believed blindly was gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and more discerning. I learned the hard way that trust, once broken so brutally, cannot be easily mended, and sometimes it's irreparable. The decision to take such a hard line, to expose Serena and Alex, might seem harsh to some, but for me, it was essential. It wasn't about petty revenge. It was about holding people accountable for their destructive actions, especially when those actions threatened to shatter a family and dismantle a life. It was about standing up for myself and my children and refusing to be a doormat. I learned that sometimes kindness and understanding are not enough. Sometimes you have to be brutal to protect what's left. It was a painful, but ultimately empowering, journey from shock and betrayal to a place of genuine peace and renewed hope. Reflecting on everything now, there are so many lessons etched into my soul. The most profound one is about intuition. That slow, cold dread I felt, those tiny red flags I rationalized away, they were warnings. I learned to trust my gut, implicitly. If something feels off, investigate it. Don't let someone gaslight you into believing you're paranoid or insecure when your instincts are screaming. My biggest regret wasn't finding out. It was taking so long to open my eyes and truly see what was happening. Another huge takeaway is the importance of having your own identity and support system. For too long, Serena was my world. When she shattered it, I felt completely lost. Reconnecting with friends, focusing on my kids, finding hobbies. These weren't just distractions, They were rebuilding blocks for my own sense of self. Never put all your emotional eggs in one basket, no matter how much you love someone. As for advice to others in similar situations, don't hesitate. Once you have undeniable proof of brutal cheating, especially when there's manipulation and blame shifting, the time for working on it is over. They made their choice. Your choice now is to protect yourself and your family. Gather your evidence meticulously. Get a lawyer immediately. Don't confront until you're prepared. And be ready for a fight, because people like Serena will try to drag you through hell to avoid accountability. It might feel brutal, even vindictive, to expose someone or fight tooth and nail. But sometimes, holding someone accountable, making them face the real, tangible consequences of their actions, is the only way to heal and prevent them from hurting others again. It's not about being petty. It's about justice, integrity, and self-preservation. It's about showing your kids that betraying someone has real, undeniable consequences. The journey from devastation to rebuilding is long and hard, but it is possible. You will feel things you never thought you could survive: rage, despair, heartbreak. But you will also find a strength you never knew you possessed. I'm not the same man I was. I'm scarred, yes, but I'm also stronger, wiser, and more resilient. And that, in itself, is a brutal kind of victory. I survived, and I'm living a better, more authentic life because I chose to face the brutality head-on, rather than let it consume me. Seriously, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for reading. Please, do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel and like the YouTube video. Your support really means the world. One specific instance that solidified my path towards brutal revenge, or what I prefer to call brutal justice, happened shortly after I had kicked Serena out, and she was on her supervised visits with the kids. She tried to use our children as pawns, pure and simple. During one of her visits, which I meticulously recorded with an audio recorder I had hidden, legal in my state, thankfully, as a single-party consent state, she started subtly bad-mouthing me to our eldest, asking leading questions like, "Doesn't Daddy seem angry all the time now?" Or, "Do you miss Mommy being home more?" I overheard this when I was just out of earshot, but could still hear their voices. My blood boiled. She was trying to poison my kids against me, to rewrite history, to make me the villain in her narrative of victimhood, all while knowing full well the devastating choices she had made. This wasn't just selfish. It was outright cruel and manipulative, an attack on my relationship with my own children. That recording became another crucial piece of evidence, not just for the legal proceedings, but for my own emotional resolve. It erased any lingering flicker of doubt I might have had about the path I was taking. It wasn't enough for her to destroy our marriage. She wanted to destroy my standing with my children too. That was the line. That was the point of no return. From that moment on, any pretense of nicety or consideration for her feelings vanished. My focus became singular: protect my children from her toxicity, and ensure she faced the fullest possible consequences for every one of her actions. There would be no compromises, no mercy in my approach to the divorce or the custody battle. It wasn't about vengeance in a fit of rage. It was a cold, calculated decision born from the deepest desire to protect my kids from further harm from a truly narcissistic and manipulative individual. That incident taught me that some people, when cornered, will stoop to unimaginable lows, and you have to be prepared to meet that brutality with an equal, or greater, resolve. It was a brutal lesson in human nature. As the dust settled on the legal battles and the kids began to thrive in our new, stable environment, the true scope of Serena's professional and social devastation started to become clear. It wasn't something I actively orchestrated beyond the initial HR report, but it was a direct consequence of her own choices and the exposure of her deceit. Her resignation from her high-profile job turned out to be a career ender in her industry. The news, as these things often do, spread. Quickly, I started hearing whispers from mutual acquaintances, people who used to be our friends, about Serena's struggles. She couldn't get another job in her field. The story of her affair with a senior partner and the subsequent dual resignations had tainted her professional reputation beyond repair. Headhunters weren't returning her calls. Former colleagues were avoiding her. She was forced to take a low-paying, entry-level administrative job in a completely different sector, a stark contrast to the six-figure salary and corner office she once enjoyed. The woman who once prided herself on her career, her ambition, her professional network, was now scraping by, humbled and isolated. Then there were the social consequences. Our mutual friends, those who had seen both sides and, crucially, had seen the irrefutable evidence I had presented during the divorce proceedings, quickly distanced themselves from her. Some even reached out to me, expressing their shock and disgust. Parties she used to be the life of, dinners she used to host, she was no longer invited. Her once vibrant social calendar withered to almost nothing. I occasionally saw her on social media, in sad, solitary posts, trying to put on a brave face, but the comments were sparse, the likes few. One day, I actually ran into her at the grocery store. It was brief, awkward. She looked tired, drawn, and nothing like the impeccably put-together Serena I had known. Her usual defiance was replaced by a haunted, hollow expression. She tried to make eye contact, perhaps to gauge my reaction, but I simply nodded curtly and turned my cart away. There was no joy in seeing her diminished state, but there was a quiet, unyielding sense of justice. She had built her life on a foundation of lies and manipulation, and when that foundation crumbled, it took everything down with it. It was a brutal lesson in consequences for both of us. For her, the loss. For me, the confirmation that sometimes the most brutal revenge is simply allowing the truth to run its course.